coming back. This is a showcase of trade assets. I believe, and I believe their actions show it. I don't believe that. I believe that the same way the Nets fan base, because a fish rots from its head, and everything that we believe and everything that we're standing for as a fan base, as an organization, that from player to player in that locker room, their minds has never really been on this year. It's always been about next year, which makes these current playoffs kind of suck, which is also kind of why the roster is the way that it is. But when Kevin Durant comes back, and they better be right, because he's never played with a team this shitty before. Every Kevin Durant team, for as long as I can remember, has had a Russell Westbrook, a Ibaka, a Roberson, right? A Curry.
I think the Nets team next year can be awesome. I really like. This is actually where I become more of the optimist. I don't know. I think if Marks makes the right moves and he has a lot of assets to work with, I think there's a lot of players on the Nets in a lot of different ways that have a lot of value in the league. It starts obviously at the top with the two guards, LeVert and Dinwiddie, and everybody, and Allen. And
I wish they had a better coach. I wish someone. I'm so jealous of Nick Nurse. I look at what Nick Nurse is doing with these guys that, like, there's even Siakam.
Maybe they'll hire Udoka, the former Spurs assistant.
Yeah, argue with me if you want. I think Karis LeVert has been better than Siakam in this series. The guy who's killing us is Van Vliet.
Yeah, obviously, like, if I was, because of Siakam's size and whatnot, I would take Siakam ahead of LeVert. But in this series, I've been more impressed with LeVert's play than Siakam, because I also think Siakam's had some games with good, like, box score basic numbers, but I think a lot of his, like, stats were kind of padded with, like, bullshit layups and beating up guys.
I don't see him being dominant. I don't see him, like, when Karis is in his bag. There's a level that Karis gets to. This dude is just steady, kind of like, yep, here's a great play call and set layup. Great play call and set alley-oop. Yep. Oh, somebody tips the ball into the backcourt. Oh, he grabs it. He'll get 12 points off of just being on such a good team that plays the right way.
And Siakam doesn't, and I also agree that I don't think Siakam makes anybody better, unlike LeVert, who we've seen can.
Exactly, like 15 assists. And nobody talked about it. And again, it's this gift and a curse that we kind of have right now, where we're talking about, the greatest scorer of our time. But the scary part is he's coming off a horrific injury.
Yeah, that's the injury is everything.
Right, but I don't think Kevin Durant is an often injured type of guy. Like, there's no evidence that, like, Kevin will give you 82 games. He'll never give the organization will never let him do that. But I think he's a sturdy guy. Like, he's not a guy that kind of, like, breaks. It's Kyrie that's going to get hurt.
I don't think he wants to, and I don't think he wants to have the days off and rest. He's just doesn't strike me as that.
Oh no, I think. I really believe that Kevin Durant is in another part of his career now. Now he's gonna pace himself as much as he's I just hope he's still the basketball junkie that he was, and we're not gonna know until we see them in training camp and when he gets out on the floor and honestly, like, I don't want to look over this playoffs, but the reality is the opportunity is there to be had with Kevin Durant. And I'm just worried about what gamble they're going to make, right? Because I think that's I think if you could get two, and it doesn't have to be Aaron Gordon. It could be so many other players that fit that bill, that'll be the bulldog defender that you have to have if you have Kyrie Irving on your team. You know, it's like I think I said this the last show that we did. Kyrie Irving, when he was most effective, had Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love and LeBron James behind him. So he could be horrendous on D. Those are the three guys that were creating the wall behind him to succeed. And there's nothing like that on the Nets. I worry about that. But then again, I watched that Portland Laker game. I don't know. Maybe this is an era where people are just not going to play defense.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's kind of how I think. I think even the NBA from 5 years ago is already different. I mean, you look at these scores. I mean, the Heat, who were not necessarily known as a big time offensive team, had 75 points at halftime today. It's just it's just not it's obviously just like a different world that we're living in as it pertains to.
I've never seen anyone win the championship that way. I mean, Toronto won the championship kind of basically bludgeoning you on defense, and they brought the best defense into those playoffs and used it to win a championship. But they scored, but not. I think the defense was a big part of why they won. Kevin Durant getting hurt as well is another reason why they won.
Yeah, for sure. I was about to say.
But the takeaway that the sad takeaway from this, and I think we'll do another pod when the dust settles after Game 4. That'll go more in depth into this. Is that the Nets are the Nets that you're going to see next year are probably going to be more of DeAndre Jordan, Kevin Durant, Taurean Prince, Kyrie Irving.
See, it's so interesting because I actually think so. DJ is obviously a lock to be on the team next year, and it honestly doesn't annoy me as it does to most people because he shouldn't be making $10 million a year, but even the vet minimum is higher, and even if you're given a mid level or whatever it is.
My thing with DeAndre Jordan is I don't see DeAndre Jordan running up and down the court like I just saw Jared Allen do.
Now you're totally right about. I actually think if gun to my head of who I think is actually the most likely to get moved, I honestly think that it's Prince because Prince has
moved that his numbers are abysmal.
But he's an expiring, and he's young enough that a team can try to convince themselves
he's got two more. He played on his old contract this year, and then he's got two more after this, next year and the year after. So he's
because of the extension he signed.
Yeah, he's got 2 years.
So okay, either way though, I think you can package because his salary is also kind of in that. You're right. That's my fault. His salary is kind of in that mid level, where it's not 20 or 25 million. It's not a max, obviously, and it's also not
you got
8.
You got his salary up there. What's
it's 15.
15 million for Taurean Prince.
But so the thing is, you can package him, let's say, and a pick, and try to get, let's say, a wing who actually is more of what me and you have been looking for, which is maybe more defensive oriented, and maybe has a couple more years left and isn't on his bat and is on maybe monetarily a worse deal.
Look at the guys that are coming into the league now. Look at this Wiseman kid.
The idea of the Nets at this point, in my opinion, when you're at this stage where the Nets are at, when they have Durant and Kyrie, and Durant and Kyrie are also not old, and LeVert and Dinwiddie and all these guys are not old, but the idea of having
Durant is
another round pick running around.
You got to be fair, Sam. Durant is not young either. I mean,
no, he's not young. But I guess my long-winded way of saying this is I just think the idea of the Nets holding on to picks because they're so nervous about what happened with the KG trade is like I would package the 19th pick and something else.
They're going to trade the picks. This is the one thing I promise you.
They got to win now. This is it.
They have to win now. Sean Marks knows it. He believes the reason why they don't win is not because the roster he's put together is poorly thought out. He believes that the best guys on the team aren't good talent. I think he did not make a trade at the trade deadline. And he could have done all kinds of little different moves. And he stood pat for a reason. He stood pat because they need the flexibility to convert these younger assets into the next the missing piece, right? Like, you know why Kyrie is also like annoying? It's because he's a very bad liar. Like, he must be the worst poker player ever. And when they asked him that question, do you feel like you got enough guys here? And he just started naming names. Part of the names he was naming them because he knows they're going to. So trust me, he was covering. But he knows, just like KD knows, just like the whole reason why people aren't even cheering this other team that's playing their heart out, but getting their heart ripped out at the same time. They know what time it is. Like, it's not a secret. And when it happens in the off season and everyone is like, oh my, what? Shocked. The players are going to come out and say, we knew the whole time. People had been talking about it.
Do you know what's interesting? Do you know who's because I got like 5 to 10 minutes left. Do you know what's the one thing that someone actually mentioned this to me? A friend of mine mentioned this, and I thought it was a really interesting point. And because the Nets have
you actually have 3 minutes left. Well,
okay, perfect. Even better.
2 minutes 45 seconds. Go.
I'm curious to hear your take on this, and I'll get it out quickly. Given that the Nets have not been in the quote unquote championship conversation for almost like 20 years at this point, it's interesting that someone said to me they were like, Sam, that Nets roster could be pretty good next year, but obviously they're going to be almost capped out, especially with the Harris signing. But do you think they'll get the type of guy like the ring chasers to come to the team? And I was like, wow. I mean, the line ring chaser and Nets has never been used in a sentence to me. And I was kind of like, maybe that will be a good way for them to get bargain guys towards the end. I'm curious what your take is on that.
No, I just think it's almost impossible. Again, like, people were saying, yeah, they'll probably have to trade like a pairing of Karras and Jarrett. No, it's going to be Karras, Jarrett, and Dinwiddie. And Dinwiddie knows it. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed him on Twitter lately.
Oh yeah, he had that line. That you tweeted at me that was unbelievably audacious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a guy who thinks he's going to be playing in the same place next year, right?
Hawks next year.
So and the Nets aren't trading for John Collins, John Collins or something like that. They're trading for a superstar. They don't believe in the power forward position, but they might get the best power forward in the NBA. But then they're gonna just do patchwork with the guys that I can't believe that they play. Because they feel like if we have these three guys, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who else we have on this team. We could just stick G Leaguers in there. And I don't agree with that. I think it's going to fail. I think it's a crazy, considering that it's never really even worked. But hey, it's one thing. We're not going to be boring next year. That's for sure. We may not win a lot. we may.
Since the Dwight Howard saga, they've never been boring, this team.
Oh no, it's going to be fireworks next year. Get your popcorn ready.
Exactly.
Dude, this was a pretty good show, even though we think all the players we like are leaving.
Yeah, and I know we didn't hit on it. Our next one, which we'll do in a couple of days or tomorrow, whenever, will be we got to talk a little bit about the whole Knicks situation, because also A lot of my friends, there's nothing they enjoy more than listening to you rag on the Leon Rose stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna kill him tomorrow, yo. Anyway, yo, listen, we got 8 seconds left. It's the front office. I'm Eve. That's your boy Samuel LaChow. We do this later, everybody.